How are
It's
you?
good. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for taking a minute out today.
Happy to do it. And thank you for inviting me. That was really good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my pleasure. So before we get into your life and I'm sure your work has kind of gone up since COVID's happened. How did you survive COVID and how has it changed you now that we're kind of in this post-pandemic era of our lives?
That's a good question. I was already teaching classes online, but with everything that was going on and people worried about economics, I stopped teaching during that time and I created the Higher Consciousness Cafe, which was a monthly meeting for people to get together and support each other positively rather than focusing on all of the things that were going on, in the country and all the fear and all the concerns. Um, it changed me quite a bit in that I was really forced to focus inward more than my outer work. Um, and so it was a good period of growth. Um, and one of the things that's happened from it is a lot of people want to get out now and meet in person, which I like, but people also got very comfortable doing things online. So I find that I'm doing more of the virtual like this now than the in person. And that's probably been the biggest change.
But do you like it like that? I mean, I know the personal connection's huge, but I think sometimes I know for me with my son, when there would be therapy appointments, you have to pick him up, load him up, drive. You're not there for a whole long time, and then you have to drive. It's like
Yeah, yeah.
so
Well, as someone who's taken a lot of courses over my lifetime and conferences, I appreciate that I don't have to get a hotel room. I don't have to buy food out. I don't have to buy airline tickets on top of the course fee.
yeah.
And as a person who works with energy, it doesn't matter. The only thing that's different when we're together is the personality connection, you know.
Okay.
So it doesn't change the information, it doesn't change the energetic. It's just a preference that some people have.
Yeah.
Um, I'm an Italian, so I like to hug. Um, so I miss that.
Yeah. Yeah. I came from my dad was full-blooded. I'm half. So yeah. And we got hands moving. Things are always people
Yeah,
used to be like, why are you so upset? It's like, what are you talking about? This is what we do. All right. We're like
yeah.
we're like sign language artists by birth.
It's true. I try not to do it when I'm doing this, but
Yeah.
you'll see my hand go and you know.
Things are disappearing and going invisible. It's like we got a super Zoom power that we didn't know about. So
Right?
I do the same thing. It's like, man, I'll take a drink and it's like it's just disappeared. It's like I'm like some Marvel superhero for a minute. But
It's great.
so on paper, you got a lot going on and you're doing a lot for people, but I want to kind of break this down a little bit. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day. One of the kids looks up and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I would say to that child, I teach people how to learn to trust themselves and God.
Very, very nice. And we all need that. What did you want to be in the third grade? What was your dream?
I always wanted to be a teacher. From the
Okay.
time I could remember, I thought I was going to be a math teacher.
Right. Yeah.
But I that didn't work out. So and which is okay because I'm teaching this now instead.
So talk to me about how you got here. Where were you born and raised, and what were the keys that like made you feel that you can tap into people's energy and help them and guide them to where they need to go? How did that happen?
Well, I grew up on Long Island, so if I get real passionate, you'll hear my accent come out. And I grew up in a basically traditional Italian house. Um, Nobody in the family was intuitive or anything like that. But for me, it was just a process of curiosity and remembering. I bought a book on palmistry when I was 12 years old and saved my allowance and just went around and said, "Let me see your hand," and did that. Um, and then I was always a dreamer, always. And I would, every day I would come downstairs and I would say to my dad, Dad, I had a dream. And he would say, what are you, Martin Luther? And I would tell him the dream. And he would say, oh, that's nice. So I got the idea that that was kind of normal. Um, and I started looking into self hypnosis. So for me, it was a process of remembering rather than, the light was already there. Um, I did a lot of self discovery, a lot of classes. I took tons of classes in my 20s. And in 83, I met a woman who was teaching a course on how to connect with your intuition in 5 days. And I went, oh, that's for me, because I always wanted to do readings. So at the end of the class, I could do it. And I started as a professional like the next day.
Wow.
And I always wanted to help people learn how to do things for themselves. That's the teacher in me.
Yeah.
So what I learned was I've got to clean up my own stuff first. And I've got to listen to what I tell others and then do it myself.
Yeah.
Right. So we
Yeah.
teach what we need to learn. In the meantime, I got 2 marriages and 2 divorces, 2 girls, a group of grandchildren. Um, and so I had to be very practical. I met a lot of people when I was studying who were always up in the clouds. They're always hanging out up there. And I'm like, okay, but how do you pay your electric bill? Like, what good is this stuff if it doesn't make your life better?
Yeah.
So that practical piece of me always wanted to know, what do we do with this in daily life?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I've always worked.
Yeah. So where are you at in Long Island?
I grew up in Massapequa, North Massapequa.
My dad grew up there.
Oh, you're kidding.
He was born in Brooklyn, raised up there. My dad's sister owned Severoli pastry shop.
Get out of here. We lived on North Kings Avenue until I was 14. And then we moved out east. We moved out to Shirley, Mauritius area.
Wow. My dad had a story when he was a kid. Somehow his dad's sister married Billy Joel, had a brother that married Billy Joel's sister. It was like
Wow.
some like thing, but he played marbles with them when he was a kid and all of that. And it's
Yeah.
so weird, like the stories. And I actually got to go up there and see the area and all of that. And um, yeah, and he just so badly wanted out to see the world. He was ready to leave. He joined the military, got in the Air Force, went to Richards Gebaur, fell in love, and never really traveled, got in Kansas City. So sometimes people are like, how the hell did a Dimino end up in Kansas City? What's going on? And I tell them the story, and they're like, oh, I got it. All right, I see.
Right? That's interesting. Yeah, I was wondering when I saw your name, I was like, oh, an Italian friend of mine.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right there. And I do talk to a lot of people from Long Island, but
Do
never have
you?
never have I ran into
Mhm.
somebody that is actually up there in Massapequa.
Yeah,
My aunt's still up there. Her last name's Severoli, and they own the pastry shop. So it's
that's
a small world.
it is, isn't it? Be
It's
kind
wild.
to everyone because you
Right.
never know.
My dad, when we talk about the mafia and the mob and all of that, because he looked like, he looked like someone that fell out of a Godfather film. Like if he was at a pharmacy and he got upset and it wasn't on time, people were ducking down beneath the counter. They were getting nervous. But he used to always tell me when it came to the mafia and all of that, because he watched The Sopranos and kept up with all that, but never,
Uh-huh.
no more than that. He'd always say, don't ever piss in the river because you never know when you got to drink out of it one day. That was his quote.
He's right.
Yeah. So,
He's right. People used to ask my father because we had the people that lived behind us. They were connected because my mother used to have a heart attack every time I went over there to sleep over with my girlfriend
oh
as a
no.
kid. And people would always say, "Oh, you're a Zummo. Are you connected?" And my father would say, "Do you think I would be working the job I'm working if I was?"
Oh, well put. And
Yeah.
things like that my dad did all the time. I remember one time he was a car salesman and he had this car. It was a really hot day and he couldn't get the thing started. And the guy behind him's honking the horn. So he rips out of the car.
Oh
He
yeah.
just has that
Yeah.
look and he goes over and he knocks on the window. He says, roll your window down. Guy rolls his window down. He said, how about I sit in here and honk at you while you try to start my car?
Oh my gosh. Oh, I would have loved your dad.
Oh my God. His moon for having a reality show on his life just was a little bit too late, but
Aw.
it would have been wonderful.
Yeah,
So
it would have been.
so speaking of people that like influential people, like my dad was a hero to me. Who was a hero for you in your life?
I'd have to say my teachers. The teachers that I had in school were absolutely wonderful. Um, and they were always supportive, um, and encouraging and challenging. Um, the woman that I took the intuition class with, I took that class in '83. I studied with her until about 4 years ago when she passed away.
Yeah.
And she was the inspiration in my life. She never sought celebrity. She impacted thousands of people worldwide. Her goal in life was to elevate others and for everybody to get in contact with their intuition so that they could make right choices for themselves. And I've learned so much from her and patterned a lot of my work after her. I actually taught her class for 20 years and was so happy to do it.
Yeah. You see all these clients that need help, they're reaching out. What's the common thread with most of your clients that maybe they don't see that you immediately see? What's one of the most common things that needs to be fixed in most of the people that come to you?
That's a good question. Truthfully, everyone thinks the answer is outside of themselves.
Yeah,
That's why they come to me,
right.
right? And the truth is that people think I'm a great intuitive because I tell them things they already know, not
Interesting.
because I tell them things they don't know,
Right,
right?
right.
So what no matter what the question is, whether it's about relationship or career or moving, it doesn't really matter because in the end, not only is the right choice inside of us, but what stands between what we want and us is something that we have to change.
Yeah,
So most people think, and I did too when I was young, if I get a new person in my life, it'll work, whereas this one didn't. If I change jobs, it'll be better. And that old, I think it was I forget who said it, wherever you go, there you are,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
And that's the common thing is, there's the money, romance, job, movement, but it all boils down to there's something out there that somebody's going to tell me that I can follow that's going to fix it. And it's really not out there.
Right. I get it. I totally
Yeah.
100% understand what you're saying. It's like it's like that whole adage that, what you're really looking for is always right in front of you. It just is, you
Yeah.
know.
I told my first ex, we got together and connected after being apart for about 30 years. And I said to him, for a long time, I thought everything was your fault. And after my second divorce, I figured out it was mine.
Wow. That's growth, that's wisdom, because that's hard to get to that
Yeah,
point.
it sure was.
It'll humble you in a minute, right? Man alive. Yeah,
It took a while, but
yeah,
that's really the thing. That
yeah.
that's what everybody comes in for, to learn.
The other thing I always hear with therapy, that world, is that they always say that people are so hard on themselves and they can't appreciate what they do and who they are. It's that
Yeah.
David Letterman complex. Like no matter how high up you go, you're always going to be self-depreciating and weird about it.
Yes. People feel that they don't deserve it,
Yeah,
which is what they've been taught, that someone has to bestow it on you
yeah.
or give it to you, or people come to me and want me to ding them on the head and fix everything, or enlighten them. And I'm like, yeah, if I had that magic wand, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
I don't have that. Psychology is good, but it only works on the mental.
yeah.
You've got to address the spiritual body. It works on the emotions too, but you got to hit the spiritual. People come into this life with things to learn,
Hmm.
and no matter how hard you try to avoid those things, they're always going to come find you because they're kind of in your blueprint.
Yeah.
It's like your roadmap when you came here. And so, you know, I used to make people upset with me because they would come in and ask me a question. They'd say, well, can you tell me if this is the one? And my answer was, well, let's look at you and find out why you want to know that, you know, or they would say, what's my next job going to be? And I would say, well, let's talk about the job you're in, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and I won't make decisions for people.
Yeah.
So that's another frustrating thing for them.
As you shouldn't as a professional. I mean, that really is up to people to do that themselves.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. If you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would it be?
That's a good question. I would I would I honestly would say Donald Trump, although it's not politically correct.
Right. Right.
But I would really like to talk to him and find out what drives him,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, what
Yeah.
drives him. All of the spiritual teachers that I would want to meet, I've met. All of the celebrity does not impress me at all. um, Content of character impresses me. So maybe Jim Caviezel or Mel Gibson,
Yeah.
because I admire the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but anybody spiritual, all I have to do is close my eyes and I can meet them.
Yeah, for sure. What's your motivation? What's the thing that gets you out of bed and gets you to help people on a regular basis? What is that for you?
I want to help people move from a place of fear to a place of love. I want to see people grow. I want to see people not dependent on people like me. I've been trying to put myself out of business since I started doing this. um, I know what it's like to be afraid of everything. I know what it's like to be afraid of life, to be afraid for your kids, to be afraid of the economy. I don't want anybody to live like that.
Yeah.
And so if I can teach people how to connect with their soul, how to connect with their source, with God, with Creator, they're not going to have that fear.
Yeah.
They're not going to have that doubt. And it's taken me a long time to figure out that life is for us to enjoy.
Yeah.
It's not for us to struggle. I tell myself all the time, God did not put me on this earth to learn how to pay the electric company.
Yeah.
So why am I worrying about it? Why am I focusing on it? Why am I concerned about it? Because everybody says I should be, right?
Yeah.
So it's about self-empowerment. That's really what my whole goal has ever been.
So what's been one of your favorite client success stories? One that always puts a smile on your face?
Oh gosh. Um, that is a really good question. I will say it this way. What really, really rocks my boat is when someone calls me up and tells me that they implemented the information that they were given and it made their life better.
Yeah.
So they found the job that they wanted. They mended that relationship. They learned how to make decisions for themselves. I don't know that I have one in particular because I tend to forget. Um, because it's not my information or my business, so I respect people's privacy.
Yeah.
But my real joy is when someone comes back to me and I tune in and I go, wow, you've really changed. And they're like, yeah, let me tell you. And I'm like, that's fantastic,
Yeah.
let's keep going.
Yeah.
Um, so sorry about the hands.
You're fine. It's good. I do the same thing. My hands waving all over the place.
That's what keeps me going, and knowing that this is what I came here to do. So my best friend says that I'm a person who's been driven my whole life. So there have been times where I've looked up and said, you know what, I'm going to quit. I don't want to do this work anymore. I'm just going to be a mom. I'm going to quit. And and then what happens is I go to the grocery store and the cashier is asking me questions, right? Or I go to the school for one of my kids and the mother next to me starts talking about problems in her life. And so I can hear my guys giggling. They're like, you can't escape. This is what you're here for.
Yeah.
So I've always been driven to do this. And when I'm not doing it, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love my kids, love my grandchildren, but I have that whole other part that I have to do.
Yeah.
And I can't leave one for the other. I have to do them both.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into the 20-year-old version of yourself, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the wisdom you've gained in your life so far. What would you tell that young version of you?
I would say, be fearless. Go for it.
Yeah.
I remember telling my grandmother when I was a kid, I said she was in her 40s, but at the time I thought she was ancient.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I said, Nani, I can't wait to be your age because you can do whatever you want and you can say whatever you want. And my advice to my 20-year-old would be don't wait until you're that old,
Yeah. That's great advice.
right? Do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Just kick ass from the word go. Why not?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Why not? So let me ask you this. If you could witness any event in human history with your own eyes, what would you love to have seen with your own eyes?
Oh, I would love to see Jesus talk.
Yeah.
I would love to go to a sermon and sit in that field of love and listen to those words. I got goosebumps just thinking about it.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
everyone out there has a perception of you. You have all these pockets, family, friends, clients, colleagues, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm the same wherever I am. I think I'm me. Um, I'm directive. I'm I know what I know. I'm open to learning anything. Um, I try not to be fixed in my belief so that I can grow and learn. But I just see myself as a person. It's hard for me, when I hear myself say, "Well, I went and bought a book of palmistry when I was 12." I didn't think that was strange.
Yeah.
I just think I'm me. I really don't think that I'm all that special, to be honest with you, because I didn't have a near death experience. I wasn't born, talking to dead people or seeing angels. I'm a person who remembered through study and practice and learning. And so my feeling is, well, if I can do it, anybody can do it. It just takes desire.
So as we are at this kind of crossroads of coming out of a pandemic, we're in this new year, AI, all these things are coming out and around. What is your faith in humanity? How do you feel about a possible enlightenment that humans might go through? What's your general feeling about humanity right now?
I used to think that everybody was going to go. I don't think that anymore. I'm kind of in the 70-30, 80-20 rule now.
Hmm.
I think we're reaching that tipping point if we haven't already reached it energetically. I believe that there are enough people who want something other than what we have, who don't want to live in fear anymore, don't want to live in control anymore, and want to live in the beautiful world that we can have here.
Yeah.
And because enough of us are desiring that, I believe that that's going to occur. Now, I also believe that there are people who either cannot or will not release that fear and move forward. And it would be harmful for them to do that.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of talk in my world about separate timelines, about separate earths, about separate realities. I don't really care too much either way to explore any of that, because my feeling is, and my knowing is, we create the experience that we're having and we react to the experience that we're creating. So, and I don't want to get too esoteric, but we've moved from a very dense 3D existence we're almost into the dream world, where they call it fourth density, fourth dimension. But all that means is that what you believe and feel and know about yourself in the world manifests a lot faster now. So you see people creating their fears and living them, while other people are creating their joys and living them. So again, my teacher told me a long time ago, don't chase people who don't want what you have. Work with the people who want what you have, because I wanted to save everybody. And so now I don't think about the 30% or the 20%. I focus on where we're going.
Yeah.
And if I'm going here and you want to come, let's go.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go, then it would be harmful for me to try to drag you. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to do that.
So Susan, if anyone wants to hire you, learn more about you, anything about your world, where can they go?
SusanZummo.com. I've got information on the cafe, which is free, open to everybody. We do it once a month, and I invite everybody to come. We're going to do something pretty cool with symbols. We do something different every month, depending upon who's there and what kind of guidance I get. If they want classes, just tell them to contact me. I'm not going to set any class dates until September. My guys told me to take the summer off. So I did. You're the first person I've connected with since
Awesome.
May.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. I'm glad. Yeah.
I am too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Um, so that's it.
that's wonderful. Susan, it's been so nice to meet you. Thank you so much for taking time out and giving me your story. It's been fascinating, and send all of my collective historical love to Massapequa.
Oh, I will. Thank you. And Joe, if you have a question or some intuitive information you would like, email me and I will be happy to do it for you as a thank you.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I'm really looking forward to getting your story out there, and hopefully
Thank
more
you.
people come your way. And thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
You and the work you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.